While other female members of the royal family are constantly in the headlines, the Duchess of Gloucester will have to do something spectacular to make the front pages. This quiet 76-year-old goes unnoticed as she quietly performs her duties. You rarely hear her speak publicly, but she has made her story interesting to read. After all, when she married the Queen's wacky younger cousin, she had no idea that she would soon be in high places in the royal family. The studious young man she married was the backup who ended up on the front lines, so this is a fascinating story of a random Duchess of Gloucester. The Duchess of Gloucester is actually Danish and was born Birgit Eva van der Henriksen in Odense June 20, 1946. When her lawyer father, Esker Preben Wissing Henriksen, and her mother, Vivian van Ders, separated, she took her mother's last name. Although she was a commoner, her education at the Swiss Finishing School and the Scandinavian Academy of International Fashion and Design in Copenhagen would help her enter high society circles. In the 1960s she met Prince Richard in Cambridge. He was studying architecture and she studied at the Bell School of Languages, but after graduating she returned to Denmark for 3 years to continue her studies. In 1971 she began working as a secretary at the Danish Embassy in London, and in February 1972 they announced their engagement. Their wedding. Birgit looks rather nervous in photos of their modest wedding on July 8, 1972, at St. Andrew's Church in Barnwell. She seems to be holding tightly to her husband's hand, although her fashionably simple 1970s-style wedding dress was designed by Norman Hartnell, the designer of the women members of the family. She topped it with a simple crown of stephanotis flowers rather than the usual stately, sparkling royal tiara. She had no bridesmaids or page boys, and apparently had to keep her own train out of the puddles on a very rainy day. Senior members of the royal family traveled to Northumberland for the wedding, but it was not a big state event. The public and the press came that day, but it was suggested that they were more interested in playboy brother William than the quietly studious younger brother Prince Richard. Her father-in-law's health was deteriorating at the time, and the dashing William was to inherit the title of Duke of Gloucester after his father died. How did she become the Duchess of Gloucester? Just 6 weeks after their wedding, Richard's older brother William died in a shocking plane crash while taking part in the Goodyear International Air Trophy in Wolverhampton. He was only 30 years old when he died on August 28, 1972. This meant that spare Richard became heir to the title he eventually inherited when his father Henry died on June 10, 1974. Henry was the last surviving child of King George V and Queen Mary, and passed on the titles of Earl of Ulster and Baron Culloden to his son, who then became a worker for the royal family. Why isn't she a princess? Only women of royal blood are usually entitled to call themselves princesses, and Birgitta was a commoner. There have been several exceptions to this rule over the years, including for the woman from whom she inherited the title. Her widowed mother-in-law asked the Queen if she could be known as a princess rather than as Her Royal Highness the Dowager Duchess of Gloucester when her husband Henry died. The Queen agreed not to confuse Alice and Birgitta, the new Duchess of Gloucester. Apparently, William's mother, Alice, Duchess of Gloucester, went into shock when her son and husband died. Princess Alice, who was painfully shy, once confessed that she was never the same after their deaths. In 1975, royal expert Helen Cathcart wrote in Chatelaine magazine that the Danish-born Duchess had become a rock of strength for her mother-in-law. She wrote, "Up to this point, it seemed that the Danish bride would have plenty of time to get used to royal protocol. Instead, she threw herself headfirst." Today, the entire London diplomatic community praises the new Gloucesters as a fresh and dynamic element in the younger age group around the Queen. On September 20, 2003, Princess Alice entered the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest-living member of the royal family of all time at 101 years and 269 days. What she's like. Praised for her quiet devotion to public service, she is often referred to as an outsider to the royal family. She has an extensive portfolio of more than 60 charities, from medical benefits to the Lawn Tennis Association, and she simply supports. She must be in good shape for her age because she has a lot of commitments, and a few years ago she and Prince Richard participated in a charity event in which they pledged to do 11,000 steps every day during March. She says, "Charity in the UK is a tradition. I don't think I have a friend who hasn't participated in one way or another myself. How far back that tradition is rooted, I'm not sure. It's one of the main aspects that makes me very proud to be British." In town she is a sponsor of HMS Gloucester, a citizen of the city and a royal colonel of the 7th Rifle Battalion. Her special relationship with Mike Tyndall. Princess and son-in-law Mike Tyndall has a special relationship with the Duchess of Gloucester because they share an interest in finding a cure for Parkinson's disease. Birgit has been a patron of Parkinson's in Great Britain since 1997. Mike has been a patron of Parkinson's disease treatments since 2018. But Mike's interest is personal because his father Philip was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2003. One day they got together for a rare virtual, collaborative event to celebrate Parkinson's Disease Awareness Month and to thank those who dedicate their time to supporting people living with Parkinson's disease. During the interview, Mike told Duchess about his family's experiences, including how they couldn't leave the house during the lockdown because they were vulnerable. He told her, "They literally didn't leave the house for a year." For people who don't know the circumstances, it's very important how much it's about the partner, or the wife, or the husband. It's about teamwork. Her importance is that she married the Duke of Gloucester, which is the highest of the 5 possible hereditary titles for men in the peerage. Duchies were divided into geographical areas in feudal times, and the monarch must decide who becomes Duke or Earl of a particular place when the title reverts to the crown. Gloucester was probably free when Prince Richard's father received the title in 1928. There are 8 royal duchies: Gloucester, Lancaster, Edinburgh, Cornwall, Cambridge, Sussex, York and Kent, and 24 non-royal duchies. The Duke of Beaufort, for example. They are inherited only in the male line, and the word Duchess is used only for the Duke's wife. British princes are given the honorary title of Duke upon marriage. But, as Birgit knows, succession is never easy, and there was a time when she could have been queen. It's complicated, but if the Queen and her sister Margaret had not been born, her husband Richard could have become king. What next? The Duke and Duchess aren't going to slow down, but they're in their 70s. The next Duchess of Gloucester looks like a consultant pediatrician. The Gloucestershire couple has 3 children: Alexander Windsor, known as the Earl of Ulster, Lady Davina Windsor and Lady Rose Windsor. Alexander is next in line for the title of Gloucester, followed by his son Zen Windsor, known as Lord Culloden. But the royal duchy will turn into an ordinary duchy because he will only be the sovereign's great-grandson. Also known as Alex Ulster, heir to the title of Duke of Gloucester, was educated at Eton and Sandhurst and joined the army. He left in 2008 as acting major and is now director of Transnational Crisis Project, an international relations company.